Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Hope you're having a great day this Labor Day here in coastal Mississippi. Listen, this is the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi, and Mississippi for that matter, such a great place to live, work, and play. And I don't have any big speeches to give today because a lot of what I'm going to share with you will come out in the conversation that I'm going to have today with my friend John Ferrucci, the general manager of the Silver Slipper Casino in Hancock County, someone I'd love to spend time with, and especially love today because we're going to celebrate a little bit. He has announced his retirement. Someone you never thought, and he's never going anywhere. He will always be there, has decided to retire. So he and his wife, Bridget, can, I guess, tour the world and enjoy coastal Mississippi when you're not doing that. But John, congratulations and welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here with you, Ricky, and thank you for those kind words, man.
Listen, last week on August the 29th, there was a lot of reflection about Katrina and how far we've come since Katrina. That is for sure. You can't help but think about it. I actually posted some photos that Jamie Bates, who was a photographer at the Sun Herald, and got some aerial photographs that were incredibly important to our effort in the day after Katrina. And I look at those photos almost in a surreal way now, because I remember the day after Katrina, maybe 2 days after Katrina, sitting in our conference room and looking at the photos and the tears and everyone kind of coming together and seeing for the first time just how bad it was in certain areas that we couldn't get to. And it's very surreal to me. In some ways, I can recall it almost immediately. In other ways, it seemed like it was forever ago. But when you think about what you've been involved in, the project as it relates to the Silver Slipper Casino, so a project that you got involved with, right, January of 2005, right?
That's right.
Rob, January 2005, just get that in your head. August 29th is when Katrina hit. And to think that this much time has passed, it's amazing, really, when you think about it, isn't it?
It really reminds you how short our time on this earth is. I mean, when you think it's an entire generation since that storm, and to us, it feels like it happened yesterday.
You say the entire generation. You're so true. I'll give you an example. I ran to get gas in my boat the other day, and I went to Ocean Marine Mark at the Small Craft Harbor in Ocean Springs. And I enjoy going there because they're always super friendly and they have very affordable gas. And it's just, I love going there. And there's where their little bait shop is, there's a little porch. And there was a couple of guys that was sitting on the porch just kind of jabbering. And I walked out there, and one of them was Todd Boswell. Now, you may not know Todd, but Todd has a long history being in the beauty salon business. He just cut hair for many years, and on the main drag in Ocean Springs, he's got a very successful business. And he was just there, he was working, but off of work for a few minutes and had gone there just to take a deep breath. And we had a terrific catch up. We hadn't seen him in many, many years. And it turns out he listens to the show. He's really been able to keep up with me through the show, asked about the family, asked about Ann and so on. But he told me, and I didn't know this before, that he had a daughter that was born right after Hurricane Katrina, and she just went to Ole Miss. So when you think about, it really, literally a generation Pat. I mean, it's wild to think, and man, we've come a long way. But it is shocking how time flies.
It is, and you really have to take stock of it, and that's why I kind of made this announcement now, because Bridget and I were saying, okay, you've worked every day of your adult life, and not that you're going to ever stop working, but we need to take some time for us while we're still healthy and want to travel and do some things. And I look at you, you're my inspiration. I mean, you retired, in 2016 or something? And if you hadn't given that up when you did, we wouldn't be talking on the Ricky Matthews Show today. So there's other things that we can spend some time on and other things we can explore, and we're excited about the opportunity.
I listened, John, I remember Ann, when I was trying to contemplate whether I was going to do this or not, and I gave him initially like a 6-month time frame, and I almost bailed out 4 months into it. And I said, I don't know if this is right for me. And the folks at SuperTalk said, no, you can't do that. And they helped me in various other ways, and it worked out. It gave me a little bit more support to do the show and so on, but it worked out really nicely. But Ann was saying during that time, she said, Bubba is what she calls me. She said, Bubba, people are not going to remember you as the publisher of the Sun Herald. That's going to fade off into the sunset. People who listen to your show will not know you that way. They will only know you through this show. And it's pretty amazing that she ended up being right about that in a lot of ways. There are certainly some of the older folks remember well, and I'll talk about what I've learned here on this show, and it helps establish a terrific foundation for discussing how to build a resilient community and why we're so lucky to be here, et cetera. But at the end of the day, man, it's the show is kind of my current legacy, if there is one, and so I appreciate the kind words, my friend.
Oh, and it's just been, your show gets better, every week, and you're doing the right thing. You're talking to the people who are really involved in making the coast such a great place, and they all have a contribution. And when you bring out those portions of what these people have contributed to what's happening on the coast, a lot of people didn't know that part of the story. So we're all learning from listening to, your interviews and meeting some of these people closer up than we knew them before.
That's been a real blessing. And I often said that when I was publisher, I was busy all the time. And I didn't have the time to really get to know the essence of who people were. And you and I had a great relationship. And in the aftermath of Katrina, we had a good relationship, but we really didn't know each other. And this show, because I don't have P&L responsibilities and employees to worry about and all that, this show to me has been a blessing to really kind of circle back and get to know people. And in some ways, frankly, it's become a digital history book. I'll give you one of the primary examples of that is the 2 or 3 shows that I had with George Schlogel, and being able to capture the essence of who he was. And we had a show not long before he passed away. And to be able to capture that, and we got it now. We've got his words and his passion and why he feels so strongly this is paradise on it. We've got those words that will be there for generations to come. And I'm so excited to play a role in capturing those kind of conversations. And it's been, in that way, it's been a real blessing for me.
Well, that was a perfect example, speaking with George, because he was so important to so many people and impacted so many people's lives in so many different ways. And when you get to hear him tell it from his heart of how it impacted him as well, they were tremendous interviews. And I listen to them every time you play them because everybody can learn from George Schlogel even today.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And again, I've mentioned this before, but it's worthy to repeat if people miss those conversations. But I asked George, how does he want to be remembered? And he immediately said, without even taking a breath, I don't want to be remembered. I don't want to be remembered. Here's what I want. I want to know the things I was involved with continue to go forward. Whether my name is attached to them or not, I hope that the things that I've been involved with continue. And that those things, as they go into fruition, if they've played a role in attracting people to not leave this area who grew up here, or maybe play a role in bringing people back to this area that had to leave and pursue their career, if it plays a role in bringing them back home, then I'm happy, whether my name's attached to it or not. What a beautiful way to reflect on a legacy.
No, it is. And the payback for me is that, I've had the opportunity, you all heard my story. I could tell it again later maybe, but when I first came to the coast, it was very early in the casino industry. It was 1993. And I've worked at 6 casinos on the coast. I've been involved with 6 teams of leadership, bringing 6 casinos, making them successful and getting them off to a good start. A lot of them from the ground up. And when I think about all the people that I have had the pleasure of working with, and how we just gelled as a team and had a common goal, and we did all those things together. And then I moved on to the next project for whatever reason, and did it again, had an opportunity to do it again. And all those people who we've interacted with and lives we've touched. And you run into these folks, now, here on the coast, whenever you go anywhere, you're going to run into somebody that you worked with in the past, and you share great times. that's the payback for me, is that we have good things to say. They have good memories of our interaction, and it just makes you feel good. And that's the legacy I'd like to leave too.
Well, that's the legacy you will lead. I joke for people who can't see, who are listening on the radio, who can't see John. He's got a blue shirt on. It's got a logo on one side and a name tag on the other. And from where I'm sitting, it kind of looks like a trucker shirt. And so I had these images of this kind of blue collar dude from Jersey. And that is John. In a lot of ways, that's John. John never wanted to sit in an ivory tower. He wanted to lead in a way that was about touching people and inspiring them. And he was never going to ask someone to do something that he wasn't willing to do himself. And his career really tells that story. In fact, we'll tell you a little bit more about that, actually, when we get on the other side and continue our conversation with John Ferrucci from Silver Slipper. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I have the general manager of the Silver Slipper in Hancock County, John Ferrucci, someone I've enjoyed working with in the community for so many years. And I meant it, John, when I said that your management philosophy, the reason why people respect you and work for you and stay with you for such a long period of time is that you would not ask someone to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. You don't see yourself as sitting in an ivory tower, do you?
Oh, Lord, no. I guess it's the way I was raised. We everybody chipped in and did what they had to do. And I had a great experience coming up through education initially, and then early on in my career in the gaming industry. And not all the experiences were positive, but every one of them was a learning experience. And the negative experiences, probably I learned more from those than I did anything else. And to me, it was this: if you're going to lead, you're going to lead by example. And that's a cliche, but you can't be afraid to get your hands dirty. You're not going to tell somebody to do something if you wouldn't do it yourself. When I worked for Harris Casino back in Atlantic City in the early days, I really had an opportunity there. I went through a program with Harris that I actually got to do almost every job in the building. We went through an internship, they called it, where I worked the front desk. I carried the bags to the rooms. I parked cars. I cooked. We worked in finance. We worked in marketing. I dealt every game on the floor. We pretty much did every job under the building. So to this day, when somebody says to me, well, this is what I have to do, you don't really get it. I said, no, I do get it. I did that job. I know exactly what you're talking about. So don't try that with me, but it's good. And, I tell my guys here, I won't ever ask you to do anything I wouldn't do myself. And there are a bunch of things that I wouldn't do, and I make sure that they don't have to do them either, So we'll hire people, we'll do whatever we have to do, but we'll keep it clean, and everybody enjoys working together that way.
Hey, listen, John, what's so interesting, what we were just saying about Katrina and how fast time has flown by. I mean, it's amazing how fast time has flown by. When you reflect on your career, here you are about to retire. I think you said your contract goes through April of 2005, so you'll be heavily engaged still until then, and then maybe on as a consultant after in some kind of role. But when you think about that date coming up, with each day that passes, you're going to be closer to the day where you're literally going to retire. You're going to probably go through the same thing I went through and reflect a lot about how fast time has flown by on your career. Because you have seen so much, man. You have lived a life before you ever even came to the coast.
I did, thank goodness. And all those experiences helped, turn me into the person I am today. And those experiences I got to share with the people who have worked for me that time. And I think they've all benefited, at least to some degree, if they were paying attention, by some of my experiences. So you don't make the same mistakes, and you can do things like that. I started off, my career was in education prior to getting the gaming industry. I had a bachelor's degree in marketing and a master's in education. I was 7 years in the public school system in New Jersey, and 1 year as a director with the Department of Education in the state of New Jersey. And I quit it all and opened an Italian restaurant and went to dealer school at night. That's how crazy it was back then, So it just I saw that there was room for me in this industry, and a couple people took me under their wing, and they gave me great, career advice along the way. And I wound up doing 9 years at Harris Casino in Atlantic City. From there, I got recruited to go to the Bahamas, believe it or not. I spent 4 years on Grand Bahama Island, running a little place called the Lucayan Beach Resort. It was actually a part of the Carnival Cruise Lines. Carnival and Continental Hotels had a management company called Carnicon, and we worked for Carnicon to get this place up and running so they could try to sell it. The history of that property was that in the 60s, when everybody got thrown out of Cuba, Meyer Lansky and some of his group landed on Grand Bahama Island and started this casino. And then one night, they took all the cash and they were gone, and kids came to work the next day and there was nobody there. The doors were locked. So the Bahamian government contracted with Carnicon to put a team together and get it up and running so they could sell it. And I was part of that team for 4 years. And then one night, there was a recruiter. He was the head of, he was the vice president of human resources for Grand Casinos. They were just getting ready to open in Gulfport. He was actually on the island interviewing some of my guys. And I was casino manager at the time. So I called him the night before he was supposed to leave, and I said, listen, I just want to make sure you had a good trip. Do you need anything before you go? He says, yeah, I'm not allowed to leave until you and I meet. I said, well, let's go to dinner tonight. So, because he was leaving the next day. So this is in the Bahamas, midweek, off season. There's nobody there. We go to our gourmet room. It's he and I and my entire staff in the restaurant. So we ate everything on the menu. The chefs just wanted to show off, and we're trying. It was like a big tapas party. You know, we were just we were tasting everything. We drank some wine. And long story short, they invited me to come to Gulfport and meet Rob Wire, who's the GM there, and that team, and try to be part of that. So they flew me in. I landed at Gulfport Airport on a Tuesday. Rented a car, and I'm driving down. I'm supposed to stay at a hotel on the beach in Gulfport. And there's all this traffic. I mean, people are crazy. There's people all over the place. There's police. There's everything. I rolled down the window and I said to the police officer there, what's going on? What? He said, where are you from? You ain't from around here. I said, well, I just flew in from the Bahamas. No, I'm really not. He says, it's Mardi Gras. They flew me in on Tuesday, right in the middle of the parade. That's my introduction to the coast. So I finally found my way, into to the hotel. By the time I met everybody the next morning, they're all hung over from the revelry from the night before. So it was a great way to get to meet the team, and then it just snowballed from there.
Well, we'll actually talk about how it snowballed from there, but let me just break some of that down a little bit. I haven't heard the name Rob Wire in a long time. But I remember him so well. Actually, I had a good relationship with Rob. What's he doing these days?
I lost track of him too. I know for the longest time he worked with Lyle Berman, the founder of Grand Casino, as development guy. Because Lyle was always, and still is to this day, always involved with something and getting some deals going here and there. And Rob for the longest time was part of that team, and I don't know if he still is or not, but I kind of lost the handle on him after that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. All these old names. Hey, mention real quick. One of the cool things about your experience having an Italian restaurant, it made me think about this. For example, I spent about 6 months in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I remember one of the cool things about being there, working with the folks from the Philadelphia Inquirer and the Daily News was. Finding out some of the best restaurants in the world in Philadelphia. Of course, I later went on to spend time in New York City and love eating in New Jersey when we did that as well. There was a restaurant, I think I remember this right, a lot of gangsters used to go there, called The Saloon in Philadelphia. Does that ring a bell to you?
Sure does, yeah. That was one of the good ones.
Yeah, it was really good. Kind of a hole in the wall, but unbelievably good. I have so many wonderful memories about that. But your time running that Italian restaurant or having a love of food during that time, it really informed you well what to look for later in your career, didn't it?
Oh, it did. I always, grew up in an Italian family, so everybody was eating all the time. If you weren't eating, you were talking about what you were going to eat next, So. But we loved going to the market and getting some fresh stuff and making some dishes. And so when I had a chance to do the restaurant, it was half pizzas and cheesesteaks, but we did some pasta dishes and we did some nice things and we just had some fun. It was a local community restaurant. And then I had the opportunity to sell it, and I was just finishing dealing school. And that's when I got out and went down, and I first started working for Caesars on the boardwalk at the Boardwalk Regency in Atlantic City. That was my first casino job. But that gave me a real appreciation for food. And then I saw how important it was to the casinos themselves. And with Harrah's, it was very important. But it didn't really come to the next level until I met Lyle Berman. And when Lyle Berman was first putting together the Grand Casino in Gulfport, and I've told this story before, he he had a test kitchen back in Minnesota. And so we would get the restaurants going, and he would come in to visit the property and put a little team together of his food and beverage guys. And even though I was in table games at the time and running the casino side, he had me on his food and beverage team. And we'd go into the restaurant, and he would order everything on the menu. And this team would all taste everything, and we'd write notes, and he would take it back to the test kitchen. I used to call Bridget. I said, "Baby, don't cook anything tonight. I got to eat everything. I'm going to be full when I go home." And we did that probably for 6 months or so, made all the changes, and finally said, "That's it. I'm done. We don't have to touch this menu ever again. It's perfect." And we never did, until the end, as far as I know. But that was how intense it was. And really listen to what the people had to say. Their comments really made a difference. It's not just focus groups. It's like every night in the restaurant, what did you like? What didn't you like? What could we do better? And so that gave me a real appreciation. So every casino I've worked for and worked at and was a part of that team, I kind of made sure that the food was special. And we really paid attention to it. And that made a big difference for us.
Yeah, I mean, I look back and some of the most amazing. I remember once I had dinner with Rick Carter and Terry Green, just the three of us, and we just visiting and chatting. And of course, they own the Island View. When you have dinner with them at their place, it's going to come in like, I don't know, Mack trucks of food. And I'm not known to be like a gigantic eater, but I love good quality food. Had a similar experience with George Corchis at the Beau Rivage with George and me and Haley. And I'm trying to remember who the third person was. It's not coming back to me, but whew, man, some amazing stuff. You've seen it, man. Look, when we come back on the other side, we're going to continue our conversation with my friend from the Silver Slipper, John Ferrucci. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're reflecting in some ways actually on the casino history, because John Ferrucci, who came here in 1993, has kind of seen the evolution with his own eyes in so many different roles. It was so many different casinos. He's in a unique spot actually to really be able to talk about the history of casino gaming here in coastal Mississippi. But it's true that this was the case in the beginning, as you discussed, as it relates to the Grand Casino. But food has become really such a big part of it. I mean, we go fast forward all the way up to where you are at the Silver Slipper today. One of the ways you try to create competitive advantage for yourselves is by having what people want and being very aware of that and being focused on that and never just staying with this and constantly evolving it. But that's a big part of what you do, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. And you have to remember that 70% of the people who come through our door any given day have been here before. So they're coming here multiple times, and they don't want to eat necessarily the same food, as good as it is, every time they come. So we always challenge our chefs, and I'm in the kitchen every day, because I'm a big taste tester myself. But we try some different dishes. We put a couple things out. We'll get some other product that some of our providers say, look, you need to try this. It comes packaged, but it's a really nice deal. And we'll try a few of those, and we'll judge the feedback from there. We have a finer dining restaurant called the Blue Bayou Bar and Grill, but it's predominantly a steakhouse with fresh fish and local seafood. And we've been through some chefs there, but I got a guy in there now who really has taken charge. He's been through the CIA, and he has a real appreciation for what it is, and he's kind of wrapped his arms around it. And it's a small team. They're only open 5 days a week, and so the same team works every day, and they interact really well. And you walk in there, it's like family. So we do specials. We try to do some specials every night. As wonderful as our steaks are, want to make sure there's something a little different for the next time they come in, and they have that option when they come. And we initiated a Sunday brunch not too long ago that is arguably the best brunch on the coast. And people are just enjoying that. But that's how important the food is. That's a drive. Our buffet, we feed 30,000 people a month in our buffet, and we're out here in the middle of nowhere. But we 65% of the people who come through our door on any given day eat while they're here. And that's an amazing statistic. And that's a tribute to our guys on our culinary team, because they can keep it fresh and the quality high and the service as good as it is, so that people want to come back for that reason. And that's all part of putting the whole package together of Casino 101.
Hey, listen, that's one of the things I always enjoyed about leading teams is that when there was a change in a team member and you had the opportunity to bring some like fresh thinking into the discussion, that's got to be kind of exciting on the food side. I mean, because as long as you've done this, you spoke so enthusiastic about your new chef and what he's brought to the table. But that's the cool thing about doing this is that you can reinvent, you can find new approaches, you can always try to exceed people's expectations. And, you know, I guess that once you lose enthusiasm for that, you probably just ought to get out of the business.
Yeah, and some people have, you know, and it was probably better that they did. I'm gonna have that until my dying day, you know. But we just understand. Everybody here gets it. You know, the people who worked for us in the past and don't work for us now is because they didn't get it. You have to kind of understand what the mission is and keep your eye on the prize, so to speak. You know, our goal is to have people come here, enjoy their experience, and look forward to coming back, win or lose. You know, the casino is, you know, itself, you get some new games whenever your company can afford to give you some new slot machines. That's wonderful because people appreciate those. Table games is really more the camaraderie of being on the table, and the dealers are put on a little show every time they step up to the table. I mean, that's all. It's showbiz for them, you know. And so, you know, when you put that whole package together, it just becomes a cohesive thing, and that's what our customers appreciate, and that's what keeps us motivated.
Listen, one thing that has remained true through this whole process has been the connection between the casino industry and coastal Mississippi. You know, the culture, the history, the tourism entity that is coastal Mississippi. And I had this opportunity last week to visit with this guy named Peter Greenberg. You may or may not know about him, but he's a really world-renowned travel writer for CBS. He was with NBC at one point, but he does shows for Amazon and Apple. And he does several shows, and like the Royal Tour. I'm fascinated by the Royal Tour, and you ought to go look it up if you don't know anything about it. But he'll spend 7 or 8 days in a country with the head of state, like the King of Jordan or Prime Minister from New Zealand or Israel or the President of Mexico or Peru, and he'll go with them, just the two of them, and go do a tour of the country. I mean, listen, this guy, Richard Branson and Bill Marriott and Peter Greenberg are 3 by Travel Magazine of the most notable travel guys in the world. Okay, he has 7 or 8 crews that are operating at any given time around the world. It's incredible. But he's got a series that he's called Hidden. He's done Hidden Brazil and Hidden this and Hidden that. It's incredible how good that program is. But he had never done one in the U.S., John, not one. Okay, so they said we're going to do one in the U.S. and he picked coastal Mississippi. Oh. Okay, and it debuts this week on September the 8th, and it's going to air on public television, and it'll be available to the world. But it's a hidden series, and he doesn't use like the travel websites or any of the tourism paraphernalia that would be. He comes in, his team comes in, and they look for the hidden gems in a community. They want to understand what is it that makes them. How is it that we've gone so long being such a secret coast? We're not as secret as we used to be because of the casino marketing efforts, and he did it, and apparently it's turned out terrific. I can't wait to see it myself, but it's cool to be the first hidden show that he's done in the entire United States. And here's what I got to say to that. We deserve it. That's what I got to say to that. When you think about the fit between the industry and what makes this such a great destination place, what comes to mind to you?
Oh, wow. I'm proud that we were a part of what made it what it is today. You know, I'm proud of the role that we played in getting us here. The fact that Greenberg's doing a show like this, that he could do it anywhere in the world, and he picked coastal Mississippi, not just any other place, is really a tribute to everybody on the coast who has been a part of what it takes to make the coast what it is. I mean, all the efforts that you have done and the mayors of the towns over the past several years, and just bringing it together, the tourism group in Harrison County, the tourism group in Hancock County, working their butts off every day, you know, to make people, when you come to Harrison County, you know, to come down the road and spend a few days with us, you know, down here in Hancock County. And a lot of great things are going on. It just makes you proud. there's one thing that all the casino operators are involved in a project right now. Our friend Brett Fairley from Hancock Whitney, he's the chairman of the Coastal Heart Walk leadership team, and Susan Barnes from Treasure Bay is on the board, and the two of them have kind of spearheaded an opportunity. So we're going to do a fundraiser for the Heart Walk. It's coming up on September 28th, I believe, and on the 24th, all the casinos we're all putting a few teams in. We're going to have a cornhole tournament. And where everybody's paying to put their teams in, and there's going to be all that money is going to go to the Heart Walk Fund, and so that's something that we could all do and be part of. That the general public can come and be a part of it and have fun with it and see us all kind of working together. We're excited about the prospects, so we're happy to be part of that too. So it's all part of what makes coastal Mississippi special.
It is, and I love the way that. The way that a competitive industry can come together and set aside your competitive spirit for a second and do what's best for the community. In fact, we'll come back to community in a minute, because I think one of your greatest legacies is going to be your commitment to the community. But Susan Barnes, hadn't heard that name in a while. And what she and Leanne Hunter have done over at Treasure Bay, again, they found their niche and they're operating in that niche, and they've stood the test of time. I got to get Susan on the show and tell her story.
She's a very interesting person, as you know, and she would do a great show. People would love hearing her story.
Yeah, I mean, man, I remember visiting with them right after Hurricane Katrina. They were set up in one of the rooms on the second floor at one of the hotel rooms and operating everything, the rebuilding effort out of that hotel room. And I went by and visited with her and Leanne, and I'll just never forget it, man. They had their sleeves rolled up like everybody else did, and this gargantuan task in front of them, and on just like this, just shoestring of a team, and they rebuilt that place. And I mean, you know what that's like. I mean, good Lord. I mean, what everybody had to go through in the wake of that storm is so resilient. Hey, look, and one of the things about Peter Greenberg, when we talked, and the show is just a couple of segments, so I would really encourage you to go back and listen to it. But he talked about how resilient we were. He talked about the changes in the gaming laws that had to occur after Hurricane Katrina. I mean, he knew that level of detail. I mean, he had done his homework. I mean, it was very impressive. This guy was not faking it, nor would I expect him to fake it. I mean, he's the real deal, and he has been around for a long time doing this, and he's all about digging, and finding the essence, and he understood us. That is for sure. Again, I can't wait to see the documentary. Hey, when we come back on the other side for the final segment with John Ferrucci, as we contemplate his upcoming retirement early next year, we're going to talk about one of his biggest legacies is the way he gets community and giving back to the community. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. Thrilled to have Citizens Bank as a sponsor of the studio. Their support of the show has been terrific. We really, really appreciate it. I wish you could be a fly on the wall during the in-between segments. I always say that. We should record those segments. No, actually, some of them we can't record. we can't record because we're let it all hang out. But it was just John and I are just reflect. John Ferrucci, who is the general manager for Silver Slipper and soon to be retired next April, we were just reflecting on so much history we've observed together. Some of it we've been involved in, some of it we haven't been involved in, but we just observed it over a long time, and it's great to be able to still share these stories and share our passion for coastal Mississippi through a show like this. John, we talked a little bit about legacy at the beginning, and we also share with John Harrison. Of course, John is also a terrific friend in the community. But what George Schlogel said about legacy, and when I reflect about your legacy, it's going to be everything we've talked about up to this point. Working hard to build strong teams, understanding that nothing happens if you're not connected with your customers, and that's one of the reasons you got broader responsibilities in your company, because you know what it looks like to build a culture where people are focused on customers. So all that's true, and your team will remember you for that, and the iterations. Building, capital infrastructure improvements at Silver Slipper and all the things that you've done to make that a really viable casino and resort, really, for that matter. but it's your commitment to the community and how that's played out in so many different ways. And I don't care who I'm having a conversation with in Hancock County. If they're involved in anything involving the community, inevitably Silver Slipper comes up. And of course, when you're talking to people like Tish Williams from the Hancock County Chamber, I mean, she speaks in glowing terms about the long-term relationship you guys have had and how critical that's been to, all kinds of things, community, that some of these things we know about, some of these things we don't even know about. But that's the way it's supposed to be. You don't do it because you're looking for recognition. You're doing it because the community needs you, needs your leadership, needs your resources. And you always understood that. Where did that come from?
I don't know exactly where it started all. I know that from the very beginning, when I was in education and first started in the gaming industry, I noticed that in Atlantic City, it wasn't so prevalent because everybody was blowing and going 90 miles an hour in Atlantic City. People coming down from New York, people who had never been in a casino before by the thousands. So the community was kind of like an afterthought. They forced them through the Development Commission there to lay off some of their profits so the politicians could take care of some of the things, but wasn't so much a big deal. It wasn't until I came to the coast that we really saw that there was a need here for that. And so I always had this sense of this. I'm a big fan of chambers of commerce. I always thought that the Chamber of Commerce was very important for everybody in the community because the business community was what drives traffic through your town, your community, your county, your cities. If you have to get the word out beyond the 20-mile radius of where you live, and casinos could do that because our market, if you have a hotel and whatever, your market is the world. So you can bring people from wherever you decide to reach them. So I always tell when I speak to the group of the Chamber of Commerce members and people who are business owners and developers, I say we are the business community and we have to take care of ourselves. And so we need to be a part of this. And look, I have right now 475 employees. When I worked for Green Casinos, I had 2,000. But, we have to do our part. I can do more than the small business because I have more resources, and I should do that. That's what's expected of me. But what's expected of you, even as a small business owner, is that you need to do something. You need to play a part in this, and you have to make sure that the community benefits from what you're doing. So I've always that has been my mantra, is that, I'll lead by my example to the extent that it's economically feasible. We'll do what we can that makes sense, and we'll be a part of it. We'll take the lead wherever possible. But I expect everybody else to kind of join in and be a part of it too. And that really has happened, and it's kind of blossomed. And it wasn't just me. I mean, from the early days, when I was first with Grand Casinos in Gulfport, when I first came to the coast, we started the Cruise on the Coast event. That was basically a casino event to drive some business into the shoulder season after the summer and before New Year's. And it started with, a very small group and just the GM sitting around the table at our monthly meeting, and I had the pleasure of being president of that group for a couple of years, after that. But look what it's grown into today. We just had our board meeting the other day, and we're over 9,000 cars registered, and they still got a month to go. So, it's things like that just put yourself out there, let everybody know that this is what you believe should happen. And if they trust you, they'll be a part of it as well. And then the whole community kind of benefits from that. And that's what I'd like to see. That's what makes me think that what we've done was successful and it was worth the effort.
Well, listen, Roland Weeks, the former publisher of the Sun Herald, and his development of me taught me well and expected me. And then later I started to really understand the essence of what he was saying. And that is, the more you're involved in the community, the more your business can respond to the community, help fill gaps, and be a part of it. It's not just about resources, it's about providing your leadership. And if there's a mantra for the show, it's that. It doesn't matter what size business. You could be a one-man show or 2,000 employees.
That's right.
You can find a way to fill a gap in the community, and that's the mantra of the show. Hey, listen, we're going to talk again before you retire, but it's been a pleasure, my friend.
All mine, and thank you, Ricky. And I'm looking forward to taking over some of your lead and looking for new opportunities once I'm done with this one.
You bet, man. You bet. Listen, it's been a great conversation with John Ferrucci at Silver Slipper. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.